हेलो एवरीवन, मैं हूँ जेल सिंह एंड वेलकम बैक टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल गेन नॉलेज। टुडे वी विल लर्न क्लास 8 सोशल साइंस गुजरात स्टेट बोर्ड बुक सेमेस्टर फर्स्ट chapter number first, arrival of Europeans in India, part 2. Okay, so in the first part we had completed about the position of India in the ancient time period, so which was a uncomparable position of India at the time of ancient period. Then Christopher Columbus accidentally he discovered America or a new land while he was trying to discover new sea route from Europe to India. Then the next one, Vasco da Gama. So actually Vasco da Gama he discovered a new sea route from Europe to India via South Africa via Cape of Good Hope on 22nd May 1498 and end of Portuguese. Okay, so how the Portuguese rule which came to an end. So now we'll continue this lesson with the Dutch. After the year of the arrival of Portuguese at the end of 16th century, the Dutch and Holland, now the Netherlands, came to India for a trading. Okay, so after completing of Portuguese in India, which means they came around 1500. So after 1500, on 1600, after 1500, after 100 years, which means on 1600, around 1600, the Dutch, they were from Holland at that time period, and now the Netherlands, they came to India for a trade. Initially they established forts at Pulicat and Madras, now at Chennai. Okay, so after coming this Dutch into India, they established their fort at Pulicat and Madras in southern side. They also established a trading center at Agra in the year of 1663. Okay, so one question may be there, like when Dutch established a trading center at Agra in the year of 1663. Meanwhile, the British also arrived in India. Okay, so at the same time when the Dutch they came to India for trade, so same time the Britishers also they arrived to India for a trade. The Dutch could not withstand the competition against British. Okay, so the Dutch they can't able to stand in the competition against to the Britishers. So here the whole trade of Dutch which was collapsed, which was no longer after coming of Britishers in India. Now next one, British interest in India. So how the Britishers that took interest in India and how they came to India, for what purpose they came, and with the leadership of whom they came to India. So we'll see that. British interest in India during the reign of Queen Elizabeth of England in the year of 1600 CE. The British established the East India Company. Okay, so in 1600, okay, I told then the after 100 years of Portuguese, Dutch they came around 1600. So same time the Britishers also they came. So at that time around 1600, Queen Elizabeth of England, she was ruling over England, and the Britishers they established East India Company. Okay, so Queen Elizabeth she established one East India Company. Okay, in which the all peoples they belonged to merchants who wanted to increase their wealth by undertaking trade with India. So whatever the peoples, those who included within this company, East India Company, they were merchants. Okay, so they wanted to increase their wealth by undertaking trade with India. By trading with India, the merchants of East India Company they wanted to increase their wealth. The first British ship arrived in India at the port of Surat in the year of 1608 CE. Okay, so when the first British ship arrived in India in the year of 1608, Captain William Hawkins the captain of the ship was the first British to set foot in India. So remember, okay, from a Britisher or from a British who at the first who came to India. So Captain William Hawkins in the year of 1608. He met Jahangir but did not get his permission to trade. Okay, so directly he came to India and he met to Jahangir, but Jahangir did not given permission to William Hawkins for a trade over India. Thereafter, Sir Thomas Roe arrived in India, who acquired the permission to establish a trading center in Surat. Okay, so after William Hawkins, Sir Thomas Roe he came and he get permission to establish his trading center in Surat. Later, Delhi went into the hands of Shah Jahan. Okay, which means here Sir Thomas Roe he took permission from Shah Jahan, not from Jahangir. Okay, Shah Jahan gave permission to British to carry out trade in Bengal. So Shah Jahan he given permission to the Britishers for a trade in Bengal. Next, the French. The French established the French East India Company in the year of 1664 CE. Okay, remember two companies which were established: one English East India Company, another one the French East India Company. Okay, so English East India Company which was established in 1600 CE and French East India Company which was established in 1664 CE. They established factories in Surat, Masulipatam and Pondicherry, now Pondicherry. Okay, so at which place the French they established their factories at Surat, at Machlipatam and Pondicherry. The head of a French company was Joseph Francois Dupleix. Okay, so who was the head of this French company? Remember the name Joseph Francois Dupleix, who had the desire to expand the European rule in India. Okay, so they wanted to expand, they wanted to increase European rule in India. Who? Joseph Francois Dupleix. Thus, the French and the British stood in competition against each other to become the strongest European company. Okay, so likewise, the Britishers also they wanted to expand their trade in India, and French also they want to expand European rule in India. So here French and Britishers they stood in competition against each other to becoming a stronger or strongest European company in India. So always they are a competition against each other. Who? French and Britishers. There were innumerable disputes and battles, and finally the British emerged as the winners. Okay, so evenly they are fighting each other. They fought some many disputes, battles, and at last finally the Britishers they emerged as the winners, and the French they defeated by the Britishers. However, the French retained their control over the trading centers of Pondicherry, Mahé and Chandranagar. Okay, and at last here all the territories which acquired by French, okay, like Surat, Machilipatnam and Pondicherry, so etc. So these all were acquired by the Britishers, and at last after defeating by the Britishers, the French only are having control over Pondicherry, Mahé and Chandranagar at these three places. Now British trade in Bengal. So how the Britishers they trade over Bengal. So at that time period Bengal, which was one of the wealthiest region in India. Okay, so how they control or how they trade in Bengal. The British first started the trade on the banks of river Hooghly and established forts in the year of 1651 CE. Okay, so they started their trade on the banks of river Hooghly. Remember, okay, at the first in Bengal, the Britishers they started their trade at which banks of river? So river Hooghly. They established a fort in the year of 1651 CE. The forts were garrisoned for their protection of the factory and got the permission from the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to trade without paying taxes against an annual payment. Okay, so while they established their fort in Bengal, so after that he the Britishers they got permission from Aurangzeb for a trade to trade without paying any kind of taxes against an annual payment. They are not able to pay. They are not paying any kind of taxes to the uh, ruler of India or Nawab of Bengal. So in this here three maps given how after the years the British rule which was expanded and the local rule which was decreased. So British rule in the first 1797 we can see only some part of India which were under the control of Britishers. Okay, in year of 1840, so mostly in southern area and eastern area we can see the areas which were controlled by Britishers, and in the year of 1857 all over India the British rule which was expanded. By this time the East India Company was in a race to earn more and more money. Okay, so when British the main goal of the Britishers was to gain to acquire more and more money from India, more and more wealth from India. As per the order passed in Bengal, only the company availed the benefits of tax free trading. Okay, so the rule which was passed in Bengal, which was only company are free from the benefit of a tax free trading. Okay, they do not have to pay any kind of a tax to the Nawab of Bengal or to the this Bengal region. However, many officers who were engaged in private trade did not pay the taxes as well. Okay, so some other private traders from other countries or from India, they also are not paying tax to the Nawab. So here with this company, the other private traders also are took advantage of free tax trading. As a result, the income generated from the tax collection in Bengal reduced, which in turn was opposed by the Nawab of Bengal. So it resulted that the income which generated by revenue by tax collection in Bengal which was reduced, which is in turn was opposed by the Nawab of Bengal. So here the Nawab of Bengal was Murshid Quli Khan. So he was opposed to this situation. Okay, in which he can't able to collect tax revenue from the traders, merchants. So this dispute kept on recurring even during the time of Alivardi Khan. So after Murshid Quli Khan, Alivardi Khan became a Nawab of Bengal, and these disputes which occurring or recurring even during the time of Alivardi Khan. Okay, so at the time of Alivardi Khan, also the disputes or the fighting which between English East India Company and the Nawab of Bengal which was going on. After Alivardi Khan, his son Siraj Uddola took charge of over Bengal. Okay, so first Murshid Quli Khan, then Alivardi Khan, and his son Siraj Uddola. At last, he took charge in the year of 1756 over the Bengal. He got involved in a major battle with the British. Okay, so he fought a major battle. Okay, before that Murshid Quli Khan and Alivardi Khan just they are disputing with Britishers, just they are giving order, they are giving order to the British companies. But here Sirajuddaulah he got involved, which means he fought one major battle which we will see. The next one is the Battle of Plassey, which fought by Siraj Ud-Dowla with English East India Company. Siraj Ud-Dowla became Nawab of Bengal in the year of 1756. He had an overwhelming influence over the Bengal. The British helped the competitors of Siraj Ud-Dowla by conspiring against him so that he would not remain in the throne of Bengal. Okay, so Siraj Ud-Dowla, he became Nawab of Bengal in the year of 1756 after Ali Vardi Khan, his father. So he was a overwhelming influence. He had an overwhelming influence over the Britishers. The British helped the competitors of Siraj Ud-Dowla. Okay, so at that time period there are many enemies of Siraj Ud-Dowla. So here the Britishers, they came to Bengal, they met to the enemies of Siraj Ud-Dowla, and they were trying to remove Siraj Ud-Dowla from the throne of Bengal. There were frequent conflicts with the British merchants regarding payment of taxes. Evenly, Siraj Ud-Dowla was also conflict against the British merchant regarding to the payment of revenue taxes. Okay, when the British merchants failed to pay taxes which were applicable to both Indians and foreign merchants, the situation came to a boil. Okay, while the people or while the merchants of British, they are failed to pay taxes to Siraj Ud-Dowla, so at that time period the situation which was a boil, which was become a very terrible situation in between Siraj Ud-Dowla and English East India Company. He ordered that the British should not fortify the factory, pay the taxes as per the rules and trade as per the terms and conditions. Okay, so what order he given to the Britishers? British should not fortify the factory, which means he cannot build any factory. He can around the factory he cannot build a fort. Okay, and they has to pay taxes as per the rules and regulation which decided for each and every traders in Bengal. So this provocation was enough for Siraj Ud-Dowla to opt for a war, and he succeeded in expelling the British from Calcutta. Okay, the British counter-attacked under the leadership of Robert Clive. Okay, so while he broke the fort at Bengal, so at that time period, one small army which led by Robert Clive, they came to Bengal, to Calcutta, and they tried to help the Britishers. Robert Clive bribed Mir Jafar and Commander-in-Chief of Siraj Ud-Dowla Seth Amir Chand with the promise to confer the throne of Bengal to him and convinced him to join their side. Okay, so here the Robert Clive, so here Britishers, they are realized that they cannot defeat to Siraj Ud-Dowla. Okay, so that's why they are just going to this Bengal, and they were made to the commander-in-chief Siraj Ud-Dowla's commander-in-chief Mir Jafar. Okay, they met to Mir Jafar and Seth Amir Chand. Okay, and they promised to Mir Jafar to confer the throne of Bengal, to make a Nawab of Bengal after Siraj Ud-Dowla. So with the help of this Mir Jafar and Seth Amir Chand, Robert Clive defeated and murdered Siraj Ud-Dowla in the Battle of Plassey. Okay, with the help of uh, Commander-in-Chief Mir Jafar and Seth Amir Chand, now they are in the side of Britishers. So the Britishers, that defeated to Siraj Ud-Dowla, and he was murdered or killed in this Battle of Plassey. This was the first war fought by the company in India, while marked the beginning of the British rule in India. Thus, this war is considered to be a turning point in the history of India. So, the Battle of Plassey, which was the first war which fought by the company, by the English East India company in India, okay, which is the beginning of the British rule in India. After Battle of Plassey, totally the Britishers they started to expand their rule over India. They drafted many rules for the Indian societies, for Indian villages, for Indian towns, for Indian kingdoms. So the war is considered to be a turning point in the history of India. Okay. Next, Battle of Buxar. As promised, the East India Company appointed Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal. So this one is a bribe which given by the Britishers to the Mir Jafar if Mir Jafar will lose in the Battle of Plassey. So English East India Company will appoint as a Nawab of Bengal to the Mir Jafar. Okay, so according to the promise, East India Company they appointed Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal. Robert Clive also went back to England. Okay, now here Robert Clive he also went back to his country England. With the passage of time, Mir Jafar became hostile towards the Britishers. Okay, and here again Mir Jafar he became hostile towards the Britishers. He was not became a puppet of Britishers. The company decided to replace him with his son-in-law Mir Qasim. Okay, so here again the Britishers they changed Nawab of Bengal. Okay, and on the place of Mir Jafar they make the Mir Jafar's son-in-law Mir Qasim as the Nawab of Bengal. Mir Qasim was an efficient, disciplined and clever ruler. Okay, so here whatever the Britishers they thought which was totally opposite. Okay, here Mir Qasim he was a efficient ruler, he was a disciplined ruler, he was a clever ruler. The problem arose between Nawab and company on account of non-payment of taxes, which ultimately brought both the focuses face to face with each other. Okay, so the problem which created in between Britishers and Nawab of Bengal of non-payment of taxes, which was ultimately faced by the Britishers with the Mir Qasim. In the year of 1763, Mir Qasim was defeated by the company, but he escaped. Okay. In the year of 1765, within the small war, within the small conflict, the Mir Qasim he defeated by the company's army or company, and he escaped. Okay, he ran away from Bengal. He recognized his army along with the force of Nawab of Oudh, Sujauddaulah and Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Okay, so now he just took help of two other kingdoms, two other armies. Okay, army of Sujauddaulah and Shah Alam II. Their combined forces met the company forces at Buxar in 1764. The British East India Company won the war. Okay, so in the year of 1764, the Battle of Buxar, which fought in between the combined army of Mir Qasim and English East India Company, and in this battle of Buxar, English East India Company they won, and all of the sudden Bengal, Oudh, now Lucknow and Mughal Empire was under their control. Okay, so now after the battle of Buxar, here Bengal, Awadh and Mughal Empire, which was under the control of Britishers after the battle of Buxar. Robert Clive was sent to India to take control of the situation. Okay, and again Robert Clive he sent to India from England to take control over this situation. Okay, which was a difficult situation for the Britishers. That's how the East India Company, a trading company, emerged as a political power in a subcontinent of India. Okay, so likewise East India Company, English East India Company, they expanded, they emerged as a political power. Okay, so first they came for a trading purpose, they don't have any kind of a ruling purpose. So after that they start to trade over India, then they emerged as a political power in the different parts of a country. Okay, so I hope you all understand this lesson. Thank you for watching this video. For more updates, like, subscribe and share this video.